Welcome. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to take Chris Feist's video and I'm going to make a extension on that with respect to Google Forms and the power there. So what I have here is a Google form that I created. It's an assignment checklist for week 8 and 9. I make my students go through and check to see if the appropriate assignments are in their respective folders that they keep for my class. I make them complete their name, and I also make them complete their period. I think that's an essential question. It helps me for organization purposes later on. Then I have my questions down here, and down at the bottom they would be able to click submit. For me, on my end, what I get to see for the responses and check the responses page, I have some sample students that have already completed this. In other words, I have completed this a few times already just to get some data as Chris did. And we will come here and edit some of this stuff later on. So now let's get into our form and how we create our form. This is the creation page. So this is where you make your form. I have my name. It's just an open-ended question. The period, I make this a drop-down or choose from a list so that it's always typed the same way. Otherwise, some students will write PD1, some people will just write 1, and you get a bunch of varying responses. And one of the tricks to making life easy is to get uniform response. And so choosing from a list allows me to get uniform responses down the road. So my other questions here, this is another choose from a list question where they can say yes or no. My next question, my follow-up question, I ask them to self-score their assignments after they say, is it present, yes or no, and then a self-score question. And it's a scale. The question type is scale. And it just goes from 1 to 5. You could modify that if you wanted to. And I typed in no credit or full credit. I do that for each one of my assignments. And then you can see I have week 9 and week 8 here. These are called section breaks. I'm going to transform those into page breaks because I'm going to try something new in this checklist for my students. So I'm going to go ahead and start doing that right now. This is a section break. And the way you can do that is add an item, or sorry, it's a section header, not a section break. So that's a section header for my week 8 and its instructions for week 8. What I'm going to do is I'm going to change it to a page break. So I'm going to insert a page break, and this is going to be my week 8 page break. And I'm going to type in some extra information there in a second. I'm going to click done. I'm going to move this. For those of y'all that don't know you can move things, just click on it, grab it, and drop it wherever you need it to be. I need it to be right after period. And like I said, I'm going to transform this section header into a page break. I'm going to go in here, I'm going to take my text, Command C, done, and paste it, Command V, into my description there. So now I have the same thing twice, but it's different. And I'll delete this because that was my section header. So now I have a page break. What this does is it's going to allow my students to go from one page to the next. And it's going to change their focus with a change in page. This will be useful in many different ways. I'm going to make a duplicate of this so that it can be week 9. Done. And now I just created my third page. I need to drag this down to where my week 9 is, which is right there. So I want that right above it. And then I'll be deleting this. But I'm going to copy and paste my text. Done. And I'm pasting it here. Command V. Done. And now I can go ahead and delete this section header. So now what I did, you can see it says continue to the next page. After page 2, it continues to this page, and then you will be able to submit it. So now I'm going to go to my live form. I'm going to view my live form. And you can see now it's just separated. So I'm going to complete this very quickly. This will be student sample number 5. My period, I'm going to make this student in first period and then continue. And now I have just week 8 questions here. And so we'll quickly go through this. We're going to give them 100%. Yes. Full credit. Yes. Full credit. Yes. Full credit. Yes. Full credit. And now I'll continue. And now the students will be in week 9. Now this could be useful as well if you were had different topics where you separate your question sets by topic. And then when you're all the way done, you can click submit. Why would I break it up by topic? Because you want kids to get questions wrong because they don't know the material, not because they're confused by the layout. That's just my personal philosophy. And then we have my submission page. I also asked them to do a couple of quick reflections. And you can edit that in your form itself down at the bottom. You can change your confirmation page to say whatever you want. So that's submitted. Now I'm going to go to my responses. You can see student sample 5 just completed their work. And now I'm going to start going to work on this. Rule number 1 for me is never work in the original document. So I'm going to select everything, upper left-hand corner, Command C. I'm going to make a new page, a new sheet, and Command V. That way if I screw anything up, I still have the original. So now I'm going to do some resizing real quickly. I'm going to grab a hold of, or I'm going to select my columns all the way out to the end, and I'm going to resize them so that they're narrow. That way I can see all my columns all at the same time. Oops, I jumped to the wrong sheet. That way I can see all the columns all at the same time. And then I'm going to insert a column to the left. All right, and this is where my scores are going to be. And I'm going to write a new formula for this. My formula is going to be equals the average of count if E1 is yes. So I'm going to average several numbers. I'm going to average, oops, this should not be E1, it should be E2. You can see that it highlights it in green here, which cell I'm referring to. So I want to know if they selected yes to these questions. I don't care about their self-score. Their self-scores don't affect their grade, but the assignments being present does affect their grade. So I'm just going to count the ones that are yes or no questions. So E2 is a yes or no question. And then comma, count if G2 is yes, close parentheses, count if I2 says yes, comma, count if K2 says yes, count if M2 says yes, close parentheses, comma, count if O2 says yes, close parentheses, and last but not least, count if Q2 says yes, close parentheses. So what that's going to do is it's going to average that number and it's going to be a whole bunch of ones. It's averaging a whole bunch of ones right now, either ones or zeros. If it says yes, it's going to count it as a 1. If it says no, then it's going to count it as a 0. So your number is going to be a number between 0 and 1 if I clicked on average. All right, I'll go ahead and hit enter right there. So the average is 0.71. You could turn that into a percent quite easily. Just change the formula to be times 100. And now this student would have done 71% of the work. I can go ahead and change that further. If instead of it being out of 100, if I wanted this assignment to be worth 10 points, just change it to times 10. And now they would earn a 7.1 out of 10. If I wanted this to be out of 5 points, just change the number you multiply it by however many points you want it out of. 5, they would earn about 3.6 points. And you can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 possible answers, but I'm counting it out of 5. So that's kind of a useful tool right there to change that number. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, like Chris said, drag it down, don't redo everything. And you see the last 2 students earned 5 out of 5. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to round this because I don't want so many crazy decimals. Click on the number, custom decimals. I just want 1 decimal point. I don't do anything more than 1 decimal point in the gradebook. And last but not least, I'm going to sort this because if you have 140 students or roughly 140 students like me, you need to sort things. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select everything that I've got. I'm going to go to data. I'm going to sort range. My data has a header row and I want to sort it by period first, and then I want to sort it by name. Notice I always ask them to put their last name first. And then you can see it'll automatically resort. It's based by period first, okay, and then by student name. So now it'll be easy for me to enter these into the gradebook. I could, of course, delete this timestamp. I love having the timestamp present because it tells you when the student exactly submitted their work, and there's no way for them to lie about it. So I can go ahead and delete that column. Then you have your scores and your names right next to each other. Hopefully this was helpful. Sorry it was so long, but hopefully it's clear. Thank you.